up and go over the round. Okay? So then, once I've done that, now look, if I just, I'm pretending that this is a stem, just so you can sort of understand. This now has a little bit more, and you can take your eraser and erase around it. That's going to have a lot more depth to it and dimension. And then, once we kind of start to shade, which you don't need to know how to do now, we don't want to shade these edges now, but once you do kind of know how to use your tool of this graphite pencil, okay, then it will be easier for you. Now it's got some depth to it, some mass. So, it looks more like a pumpkin. But, okay, do you get the idea? This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for loose. I'm looking for, literally, I'm looking for, whoops, go around and around and around. Go all over your paper. Be very loose and try and figure out where those things are. And your eye will naturally, well, this is going to drive me crazy. Your eye will naturally be drawn to the line that is the correct proportion. So that's why we don't want to necessarily erase. I don't want you tight going around making one line. I want you to be loose and using the side of your pencil and really just being messy and being loose and trying to see around that object in your mind. Follow with your hand around the object. And if you do that enough, you'll start to understand that the real lines will start to pop out at you. But if you're all tight and you go around it that first time and you go around the outside, which is called the contour line, if you go around the outside, then unless it's perfect, which it probably isn't the first time you drew it, but then other things have to change in relationship to it. It's just like plumbing. You know, if you've got a leak one place and you fix that leak, okay, it's going to force the water in and there's going to be a leak somewhere else if it's an old pipe. You fixed that moment, but it went on and made something else, okay? When you have a drawing, if you get too tight and you zero in on it and you are definite about that line the first time you draw it, well, you've drawn yourself into a corner because proportions change. You might think you're working really well and then you look down and say, oh, that's not the shape of it at all or the size of it at all. I got this half right, but this half is wrong. If you'd been loose, you still might have gotten this half right and this half wrong, but you can go back and make some more lines, and instead of erasing, just keep those lines in there and it will give it mass, and your eye, like I said, will find the right lines after a while. So try not to use your eraser too much in these phases. We're going to use our eraser as a tool, not as a to erase a mistake. Your paper has memory and knows what you've done on it. What do I mean like that? I mean it's got direction lines. Okay? Goes that way. If I were to erase that, oops, you can't even see what I've done. If I were to erase that, you guys know you'd still be able to feel it in there, right? Even if you couldn't see it. And then when you go back through, you all have done that. You know, we press really hard, okay? Then I erase that, and I know it leaves a divot in the paper. So even though it wouldn't be showing anymore, it'd have an indentation. And then if I were to shade over the top of it, that indentation would stay a little bit light, wouldn't it? I'd have to press harder, and it would show where it's been. So every time you mark, we're not drawing, we're marking. That's what we're practicing in this class. Marking what we're looking at rather than trying to draw something that looks exactly like something. I want you to get that really in your head because it's important. So do another 10-minute drawing of the apple, and then I want you to do another 10-minute drawing of the apple. Move the apple, put it somewhere different, and move a light on it so it looks sort of different, and do those two drawings. The last thing that I want you to do this week is I want you to go ahead and take an object, any object you want, and Xerox it. Yes, on the actual Xerox machine. I want you to, for example, my eraser. You need to choose an object that you actually find interesting and not an object that you just think will be easy to photocopy. You're going to get an 8.5 by 11 photocopy machine. You're going to make an 8.5 by 11 black and white photocopy of your object, and I want you to be creative. Do not change the scale. You need the scale to be 100%, but you may place your object however you would like on the Xerox machine, and I want you to think, well, if I Xerox the stapler, I can't close the lid. Well, if you can't close the lid, take your jacket and put it over the top, and it'll give you a black background. If you take your tennis shoe and you Xerox your tennis shoe, put your jacket over it, and get that Xerox. Try to use an angle that's interesting. Instead of just using the flat side of the stapler, I'm going to try and catch the side, or a more interesting angle, because there's a lot of stuff going on. That's just boring. My photocopy is going to be boring. It's just going to look like a chocolate bar, flat chocolate bar. So instead, I'm going to try to make a more unique photocopy, 8.5 by 11. So those are your exercises for the week, besides your reading, which you should be now. This book, we're going to talk about this page. We're going to talk about this page next class, okay? That's page 13. I want you to learn page 13. I want you to learn what she says the 4 basic principles are. They're not what I say the 4 basic principles are. I'm going to interpret hers in my own way next class. So do your photocopy, get that done, and then I want you to scan your photocopy, and you're going to post your photocopy. I will make the photocopy link on the discussion board. So have a great week, have great reading, have great drawing, and I'll see you guys next Sunday.